evening, and welcome to another episode of Unstoppable Overcomers. I'm your host, Dorothy Odell, for this evening, and I am super excited. If I could definitely get my, there's always a glitch when we start this stuff. Now my mouse won't work, so I can't get our guest on the show. This is awesome. Anyways, before we bring up our amazing guests, because there's always something that goes on. I just wanted to take a minute to share with you something that I came across. Is called Cast Magic. And so, if you are a podcaster or you are a coach and you are running different hats, because I know in this industry you could wear many hats. Definitely get your free trial over at Cast Magic. It has saved me at least 10 hours this week, with putting content out on social media. It does amazing things, even your clips and things like that. And with your coaching, it could take the coaching course that you just put out with your clients, and it could take it to a whole new level. So definitely go take a look at Cast Magic. It's in the show notes. And I'm super excited to bring to the stage because he's back. And anyways, some things are working, some things are not. So Boomer Anderson, welcome to the show.
What's up, Dorothy? And thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. Oh, now my mouse decides to work. Awesome. All right. I just love, this is what the magic of live is all about. And yes, we are extremely happy to have you here. So Boomer, tell the world who you are, and we'll go who you are first of all, and then we'll go into your overcoming story in a little bit.
Absolutely. So it's funny that something as simple as who you are is oftentimes the hardest question to answer. Um, I like to break that down in a couple of things. So vocationally, I am the chief executive officer of a company called Smarter Not Harder Inc. We call it SNH because cool kids like abbreviations, right? And at Smarter Not Harder, we also have a nonprofit, which I am the chief executive officer as well, called homehope.org. What are those two things and what do they do in the world? So Smarter Not Harder is a life sciences and technologies company where we're probably most well known for our for-profit entity, which is Troscriptions. At Troscriptions, we call ourselves a formulation company and not a supplement company because we produce formulations for an effect, meaning we're going to solve your focus issue, we're going to solve your sleep issue, we're going to solve your stress issue in the form of a buccal troche, which is just a lozenge that you stick in your upper lip between your cheek and gums. The other entity, the nonprofit, which is really actually how this whole venture got started, is called Health Optimization Medicine and Practice. And there we teach doctors and healthcare practitioners how to optimize for health rather than treat disease. And it's a whole new framework that we're trying to introduce into the world's healthcare systems because, well, frankly, there's so much there's the signs to me are on the wall, whether it's doctor burnout, patient bankruptcy, patient obesity. We have a lot that we can work on here. And that clinical framework is meant to teach a lot of different practitioners how to, again, help people on their health journey. So that's the vocational component of it. But I think you can fundamentally boil me down to is some weird amalgamation of educator, investor, business person or entrepreneur, I guess, husband, that's a very important one, and then fun-loving adventure traveler. Those would probably be the simple things that you boil me down to. It's funny when somebody asks you, like, who are you? How many people lead with vocationally what they do? Because ultimately, there's so many things that I could add to that list, but I don't want to take the duration of the show just explaining what I do with my life.
That is so true. I go, I don't know, child of God, wife, mom, stepmom, daughter, auntie, the best auntie on the damn planet. Like my nephews will attest to that. And so, where do you go from there? And I love that you had to think about that for a minute. So why though would you have started transcriptions and the Smarter Not Harder? Because I love that. That's what got me, honestly. because I've always said, let's work smarter, not harder. That's who I am. And so I love it. So why did you start that?
So let's take a little bit of a step backward. In fact, for those of us who remember Michael Jackson, maybe it's a little bit of a moonwalk here. And we'll go all the way back to high school and just tell you a little bit about my parents. We're going deep, right? My parents, I was fortunate enough that one of my parents is a yoga teacher, and my mother, and then my dad was he worked in operations at a mutual fund. So I always had this sort of east meets west dichotomy growing up. And I was a weird 12-year-old in the sense that I knew very early on that I wanted to work in finance, and that was really my backup in case I wasn't a professional ice hockey player. The And that's funny sitting here in land of Connor Bedard, where in Chicago, where he's 19 years old, and I was really enjoying everything that came of him being drafted by the Blackhawks. Go Blackhawks! They need all the cheering they can get right now. But
Considering, did you see last night's game? Sorry to interrupt you, but Chris Chelios's jersey was retired last night.
I heard. I did. I was going to go. We were actually out for brunch because it's my birthday this week, and there's a lot of Blackhawks and Red Wings jerseys, a lot of Patrick Kane Red Wings jerseys, which that's sort of a jab in the stomach for us Blackhawks fans. So anyway, fast forward, I had this interesting relationship between health and performance, and that led me to go to Wall Street in 2008 of all times. And my first day on Wall Street, Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy, and AIG got nationalized. So what I thought was my career path got changed pretty drastically. I ended up getting shipped to Singapore, where at the age of 26. And this would only happen at the particular bank that I worked for. I ended up running a South Asia financing business, and had pretty good. I think in many ways the bosses there were looking at me and saying, "Well, let's see if he can do it. If he can, that's great. He's cheaper than somebody that's much older than him, or if he can't, then we'll get somebody else." And I did pretty well. And during that time, I continued to reinforce that connection between health and performance. But I didn't really understand what health was. And at the age of 30, I kind of did everything that I wanted to do in finance, decided to leave with my now wife, and moved to Amsterdam. And in that process, figured out that I had a heart condition. And along the lines of unpacking that heart condition, and keep in mind, I love numbers, data, all of that stuff. And so I started looking at health in a very different manner. What are the numbers telling me, rather than, what is this sort of algorithm telling me? And, algorithms and numbers are hand in hand. What I mean is, while I love Western medicine and a lot of the things that it can do, if you have a case that is sort of on the tail, so to speak, or outside of the norm, you oftentimes get lumped in with the middle of the curve. And I wasn't accepting of that. So I went and tackled it in a way that I knew how, which was numbers, probability, those types of things, and ended up in omics sciences. Along the way, I started my own podcast, and that was simply because I didn't want to pay for consults all around the world. And so I got to talk to a lot of these very, very cool physicians, one of which was my mentor, and the guy who really brought me into Smarter Not Harder and the nonprofit is Dr. Theodore Achacoso. And at that time, I was trying to build the operating model for human performance. And, think about, I'm a banker by trade, and, the operating model is how does a business work? What are the projections? How are we going to grow this? And I was looking at how to do that for the human body. And when I talked to him on that podcast, we were scheduled to speak for 45 minutes, ended up speaking for 3 hours. And, afterwards, I was like, okay, I have something to learn from this guy. We had a mutual interest in complex adaptive systems. And we ended up going down a few wormholes, had a trip to the Philippines together, in which then I kind of joined the nonprofit, and then helped build out Smarter Not Harder into what it is today, which is a fantastic life sciences and technologies company.
Wow, that is admirable. All of that. It's funny, when we get into a health scare, health crisis, things we turn to. And you know, growing up, everything was all about Western medicine. My parents never even thought to seek anything differently, um, which probably led to, the cancer walk my dad had. And so now I'm like, okay, well, there's got to be something more. I hate drugs, I hate prescriptions, I hate all that stuff. Let's see if there's something, an alternative, right? That's just me. No disrespect to anybody that's what they do. I will try a holistic approach before I try, something different, or something that the doctor says, anyways. And I've never said that on the show, so I don't know why I just said that, but here we go.
I mean, Dorothy, I think there's something to acknowledge here, right? And it's worth pointing out. I don't think either one of us are saying that Western medicine is bad, and we're not saying like Western medicine is evil, right?
Right.
In the sense that we've created a system that is fantastic for resolving very specific issues. Like, for instance, if you're in a car accident, like, you're not going to go and, put some sort of herbal remedy on yourself when you have a broken leg. No, you're going to go to the emergency room and you're going to get taken care of and you're going to be okay. And that's amazing. Like, if you think about that in the past several decades, how far we've come in medicine. And now we're sitting at this sort of the cusp of artificial intelligence and what that means. It's an amazing thing. But we still haven't resolved the fact that, look at, particularly in the United States, where the data is just so available, 66% of the United States is overweight. And that's shocking. Most of the United States sleeps less than 6 hours a night. Again, shocking. We are not all people that have, it's called a DEC2 gene that allows you to sleep less than 6 hours a night. That's only 3% of the population. That's very few people. And so there's this room in our current healthcare system, which is now causing, all of these issues with doctor burnout. Even the doctors don't like the current healthcare system, right? And you have patient bankruptcies, which is just so unfortunate in the United States. And you're just wondering, like, okay, how do we come to this point? And why isn't somebody talking to you, the patient, the client, etc., before? Why aren't we talking to you at the age of 16 and just making sure that, like, hey, you're not predisposing yourself to diabetes or whatever, right? Why don't, and like, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? And so why not just introduce something more here, which is that role of the health manager? And that's really what we're proposing fundamentally.
Right. I love that. Yes, absolutely, 100%. So now that it's funny that you said finance, because I come from a world of finance, and
We're gonna start geeking out over Excel spreadsheets because we can.
no, because I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Unlike you, I'm like, once I get out of what I'm currently in, I'm never going back. Yeah. I'd rather help people than numbers. That's just me. So for doing this for 27 years, numbers for 27 years, it's time to change. But anyways, it's
beautiful when you can find them a way to have them intersect, though, which is basically where I've sort of found myself, is at that intersection of finance and health and technology. And it's a fun spot to stand on. It's also very hard to explain to your parents what you do with your life, by the way.
Oh, try telling your parents that you wrote a book about how you grew up. I mean, loving family, but there's a lot of stuff going on. So try explaining to your parents that you just wrote a book about everything in the book, and they're like, "What?"
Yeah. Do you have to get their legal consent first? I don't even know.
Well, I wrote it, and then I said, "Hey, by the way, I did this, and do I have your permission to?" Especially share. Some of it was their health journey, because they've been unhealthy pretty much my entire life, and growing up in a home where the health was not the greatest. It's I don't know, when you see your dad have a stroke at 30,
yeah,
it changes you a bit.
I mean, there's there's bifurcation points, right? And there's moments where you're on a certain path, and we actually don't have that many of them in life. Like, you're born and you have a certain level of probabilities of things that are happening, right? And then you go through school, you graduate high school, and then there's another bifurcation point. Like, do you go to college? Do you not go to college? And then certain jobs will hit you in certain ways. Who you marry, that's a huge one. Where you decide to live, all of that stuff produces bifurcation points. And what's interesting, and I find fascinating yet shocking, and it happened to me all at the same time, is that health is oftentimes a bifurcation point for people. And so whether it's yourself, or hopefully you learn it from others, because learning it from yourself is always the most painful way to do it. There's that moment where you kind of set yourself off on a different trajectory. And so that way you can see, I mean, it sounds like you with your parents, right? Like, you saw a certain way of living, you saw that it may not have been for you, and then you made some adjustments, and bam, you're on another path, right?
Yeah. I love what you said, especially about the marriage being the most important relationship. Yeah. I'm telling you, you should read a book about it first before you get into it.
I mean, it took me a long time. I've only been married for 3 years. We've been together for almost 10, but and frankly, I think it's not like it's a label that was required of us in order to move back to the United States, because my wife is not American citizen. But the labels are a funny thing in many ways, but I've been through a lot of false starts, so to speak. So I mean, that we can have another discussion about this later, but it's kind of a funny thing.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And that's funny because we've only been married for 4 years. So this
There
is
you go.
awesome.
There you go.
Parallel in this. So tell us more about transcribes then.
Yeah, so Troscriptions, and it's actually it's in the name, right? And so Tro stands for trochee, and then scriptions is prescription, and we kind of combine the two together. And let's start with the latter first, because I think that's worth focusing on. If you look at the dietary supplement world in the United States, or just globally, there's not really that much in terms of regulation. In fact, to be fair, what you buy, if they are doing it correctly, and it's not very well policed, there needs to be only a 20% difference of what's on the label and what's in the actual product. So that means that if you buy something that says it's 10 milligrams, there really only needs to be 8 milligrams of product in there in order to be considered label accurate, right? So already there's no such thing in as precision dosed, but we decided to create that. There's also no emphasis on quality. If you go out and ask your supplement company that you're buying product from, and I think you better well should, because you're spending money with them, ask your supplement company for the testing that they do on their products. They may say they do testing, but will they provide it to you? And what type of quality of that product is there? Well, not many supplement companies do that. So we went out and decided to do everything pharmaceutical grade. And then how many supplement companies actually look at bringing on staff and are founded by people who have some sort of medical background and have some sort of holistic medical background? Well, that's not very normal. In fact, most supplement companies are better off being called marketing companies, right? And so that's where we came out and said, physician formulated. And so Troscriptions is precision dosed, meaning that we can tell you exactly what's in every trochee that you are taking and what amounts are in every trochee of each of the active ingredients, as well as sort of the inactive colorings as well. And we'll provide it to you. So that's the precision dose component. When we go out and source ingredients, and I can tell you, I have been all over the world due to finding ingredients. Dr. Ted, our chief science officer, doesn't like to make things easy for me. So when he says, go out and find this, sometimes it involves China and sometimes it involves South Africa. I've been to, the middle of nowhere in South Africa searching for very particular ingredients. And so that whole pharmaceutical grade, everything we get now, how do you ensure pharmaceutical grade? And I'm telling you this because, as I said, part of my role as educator is that you ask your supplement company for the test results. And if they're not using something called HPLC testing, then you should raise a red flag, right? Because your supplement company should be spending that kind of money on tests in order to ensure what's in the product is actually what they say it is. And so pharmaceutical grade. And then, of course, the physicians, and, it's quite fun sometimes working with 4 doctors and of a team. I think of our team, the most common profession is medical doctor. In fact, I'm a rare breed. But Troscriptions was started with the idea of, can we produce precision dosed, physician formulated, and pharmaceutical grade formulations in the form of a buccal troche? And that's the other part of that word. And so troche is buccal troche is a delivery mechanism, which is a lozenge that goes in your upper lip between your cheek and your gums, and it dissolves in 15 to 30 minutes. It's super cool, but we're the only people using it commercially. Now, that makes my life somewhat hard when it comes to marketing the product, but why do we use the buccal troche? Well, the buccal troche, if you put on a lozenge up here, many people here are probably familiar with chewing tobacco, and it's not that, but we don't put glass in it. Yeah, or a Halls. A Halls is a lozenge that would go under your tongue, right? And so if you put it up in your what's called your buccal cavity, it is close to the circulatory structure of the brain. It also has 8 layers of mucosa, which give it a very predictable and reliable effect with less ingredients. So I don't have to give you, let's say, 20 milligrams of nicotine. I can give you 1. And nicotine, we can go into why nicotine has benefits at lower doses rather than at higher doses, etc. I can also reduce the dose that you need in order to get the effect that you want. The other cool benefit, and this is really, really cool, especially in a world where people are, I guess you can say, a lot of people have gastrointestinal issues, so issues with their gut or with their liver because maybe they're drinking a little too much of the booze on the weeknights. You can bypass what's called first pass metabolism, and so that means that, again, you have a more reliable effect because you're not having so much of this going through people's gastrointestinal systems and through their liver. So a lot of the dosing variation that is required of either pharmaceutical drugs or supplements, and why something may not work for you and may work for me, is caused by the fact that you have to go through first pass metabolism, and so you avoid that. And we became quite famous once because the New York Post picked up on what we were doing, and our first product, it dyed people's tongues blue. And we live in a viral world, and to quote Madonna, I'm a material girl in a material world. Maybe we live in a viral world, and I'm a viral girl. And so my tongue would be blue for a period of about 4 to 6 hours, and people would share it around. And eventually the New York Post picked up on this and wrote an article about it. It wasn't the most well-researched article, let's put it that way, but it did help get the word out. Thank you very much, New York Post, even though that's not what you intended to do. And a lot, as a result, we become quite known for using novel ingredients. As I said, I've traveled all over the earth to find certain ingredients in a novel delivery mechanism. So that's what we do, and we like to tackle big, hairy problems. And so our team has a crap load, pardon my French, of brain power. And so when we look at things, we look at complex problems like focus, and we live in a world right now where our attention is essentially the equivalent of, or less than, a goldfish, so less than 3 seconds. We like to tackle other hairy problems like stress, and who doesn't have stress? Stress is ubiquitous. Part of it is because of those things that cause our attention to go so low. And then who doesn't have sleep issues? We talked about earlier on the podcast that the American public is largely they're largely sleeping less than 6 hours a night. And so if you're sleeping less than 6 hours a night, you're not getting the rest you need. Your hormones are probably in the crapper. So how do we get you sleeping again? And that's a very complex issue, but we have the brain power to do it. And so we look again at novel delivery mechanism with novel ingredients, and that's who we are at Troscriptions. Precision dose, physician formulated, pharmaceutical grade. I should get that on a t-shirt, but not yet.
There we go. I just want to give a shout out to our mutual friend, Rena. Welcome.
Oh, what's up, Rena?
She said blue tongues are the best marketing.
Really? And they're also very effective products. So
I would have thought that, yeah, hey, just stick out your tongue and then like have everybody take pictures of that and have this like whole slew of blue tongues and have its own marketing campaign around that.
Yeah, absolutely. We certainly have, and if you check out Troscriptions on Instagram, you can find all the tongues that your heart desires. There's sort of a, I'm going to see the Rolling Stones this summer, and so there's sort of like a cheeky way that if I could ever get Mick Jagger to have a blue tongue and redo the, I don't think it was the Sticky Fingers album cover, but whatever that album cover was with the Rolling Stones quintessential tongue, that would be sort of pipe dream for me. But Rena, I am going to be in your neighborhood very soon. I hope we can catch up in person.
Ooh, there we go. Yes. I That's funny because I maybe we should just go to Texas together. We'll
Yeah,
go
there
meet
we
up
go. Yeah,
together.
I think Texas, LA, like wherever. I think you're actually not too far from where I am. Maybe we can recruit Rena to come up here to Chicago and we meet in the middle. Selfish, I'll buy dinner. Um,
Oh, she said Rodman with the blue tongue would be cool.
It would be, and we're coming out with something that's going to be red soon, so I wouldn't mind getting Rodman or any of the former, or even current Bulls team in red tongues.
Ooh, there we go. Awesome. Love that. And it's funny because I didn't think I was part of the statistic, but historically, it's been around 6 hours or
Yep,
less that I've been sleeping. However, I found out this cool thing, and I've been sleeping with that a little bit deeper. Anyways, I get up at an extreme early hour so that I could jumpstart my day. So it's
of
on me.
course. I mean, I'm
It's
an I'm an early morning riser as well, and the literature guides us to 7 to 8 hours of sleep. 7 to 8, not 78. Don't worry. 7 to 8 hours of sleep is being optimal. But look, we have to live in the world we live in, right? Which sometimes has its demands on us. Both you and I, we have our own businesses, and we like to grow those businesses. As a result, I'm a realist. I also work with entrepreneurs one to one, and so telling somebody who gets 4 hours of sleep a night to go to seven is like basically trying to, like, they take it as a stab in the gut, and you can't do that because they'll just fire you. And so, baby steps. If you're at 4 hours, go to 4 hours and 15 minutes and see how you feel. Everything in habit building is really about micro habits anyway. So don't try to bite the elephant, and don't try to eat the elephant all at once. It's probably good just start with the toe and work your way up from there. And don't eat
well,
elephants because they're endangered species.
and I like, well, you said it helps with focus and stress. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't know of anybody who isn't under some form of stress and focus. I can't believe you said the goldfish analogy because I've said that my stepson has the attention span of a goldfish. So, and I don't think the rest of us are much better because I mean, with social media and stuff like that, um, where I spend historically, I've spent a lot of time on that. Rena has a good question though. Have any ingredients not made the cut?
Let's spend a little moment on this. I'm glad, Rena, thank you for asking this question because it's really cool how we formulate at Troscriptions. And I think after this, at some point we should spend time on our business model because it's very different from your traditional Western capitalist company. But when we are, let's say, breaking down a complex problem and we're looking at the biochemistry first because on our team, our chief science officer, he's one of the smartest people I've ever met and has backgrounds in pharmacology and toxicology. And so the first question when you're breaking down something like stress is, what is kind of the biochemical reactions of stress and what's involved? When you start looking into stress, you'll kind of find, specifically if you look at neurotransmitters, there's a pair that you'll find called glutamate and GABA. And I'm just running through this because I'll get to Rena's question here. But glutamate is your body's primary excitatory neurotransmitter. GABA is your primary relaxing neurotransmitter. Now, if you start to then break down what ingredients or how do you affect the change from excitatory to relaxation so that somebody can relax, that you then come up with a list of ingredients. And the way you come up with that list of ingredients is by understanding that GABA, to activate GABA, you have to have a GABA agonist. And to multiply the effects of GABA, you have to have what's called a positive allosteric modulator. These are very big words. Don't just like,
I feel like I'm getting a
I,
whole education schooling from you tonight.
I think, Dorothy, like, you asked me to describe who I am, and I told you educator, so watch out. So when you say, but then you have your two mechanisms by which you can influence GABA production, and then you build a list of compounds or molecules that can influence GABA production. And the way we do this is quite unique. And we dissolve all boundaries, and we say, okay, let's make a list of everything that could possibly influence GABA production. On that list, you'll find things like alcohol. You also find things like GHB. Now, we are not an alcohol company, and alcohol also has a net negative effect to your liver. And so you throw that out with the window. GHB is illegal. And so we are going to throw that out too. So you have this huge list, and the questions go through first, is it legal? And if it isn't, then we throw it out. Is it effective? Then we add it to the list, and then you basically rank everything by its effectiveness. And we don't necessarily care if it's hard to get. We don't necessarily care if it's something that we need to synthesize. We went out and built those relationships. So we have a relationship, Dorothy, with the University of the Free State in South Africa. University of the Free State's in Bloemfontein in South Africa, by the way. That's kind of the place that I've been to that is that Americans would think of as the middle of nowhere. But you can then build that list of what's most effective. And we would, if we can't source it from all of our various pharmaceutical grade sources, we'll then go out and synthesize it. And so synthesize, if you're not a chemistry person, and by the way, my background's in finance, and I've learned this stuff, so it is learnable. You can make a molecule basically from scratch. And so we will pay somebody an enormous amount of money to go out and make the molecule because it's the most effective. And then so you have a whole host of ingredients that don't make the cut. And frankly, most ingredients don't make the cut. But what we look for is the most effective. And we're going to take a unique position on that because there's oftentimes an education component that we want to have for people. For instance, with our latest release well, we can talk about stress. We'll carry this thread all the way through, right? And so TroCalm is our stress formulation. And what we wanted to educate people on is the fact that if you're buying a GABA supplement, so a supplement that's labeled GABA in the store, it may have some benefits to you, but it's not crossing your blood-brain barrier. And if you think about what that means, so your brain is protected, right? Think of it as like a moat around it. And there's very few things that can get across that barrier. That's a safety mechanism so that you don't go out and ingest something and it kills you. But if you're taking GABA to relax, that's not working. And so we introduced something called B3 GABA, which allows it to cross the blood-brain barrier, and that does help you relax. So, Rena, fantastic question. We throw out so much baby with the bathwater. And oftentimes a lot of things don't make the cut, but it gives you a little insight as to what we do here.
So her next question is I don't know what that word means.
Contraindications and risks. So a contraindication is essentially when you're looking at any sort of, and this is a good question to ask, when you're looking at any supplement, you should be asking the company, are there any contraindications? Meaning, does it not mix well with something? Or are there particular types of people that shouldn't take this supplement? For instance, one of our products, the product that dyes your tongue blue, has methylene blue in it. You shouldn't take methylene blue if you're on an SSRI or it's a specific type of an antidepressant usually. You also shouldn't take methylene blue in high doses if you have something called G6PD deficiency. Now, if your supplement company is not disclosing contraindications, please ask, because we live in a world where it's funny because oftentimes the incentives are not aligned, right? Like the incentive for the supplement company is to make money and the incentive for you is to get healthier. And so if your supplement company is not providing this and you ask them and they do not provide this, go to another supplement company. You can also use some of these cool new AI tools to help you develop those lists of contraindications. But if you were to take a look at any one of our formulations, we disclose every single contraindication that we know of. And I say we know of because oftentimes, when you're dealing with frontier molecules, sometimes things come up that you don't know. And we haven't had that situation specifically with us, but I just want to always leave that for the realm of possibility of happening, right? Because it can. And so again, the contraindications on the molecules in Trocalm are more around if you're taking benzodiazepines, talk to your doctor before doing it. If you are taking alcohol is a GABA agonist, and so if you take alcohol in combination with this, it's not a great thing. And alcohol and kava are not particularly great things together. So just again, I would I would just open this is such a great question, and one of my sort of flags that I'm wearing right now is trying to advocate for patient response, like what I call empowered responsibility. So you need to go out and ask the right questions, because ultimately you're the person taking this and you're spending the money, so they better damn answer your questions, otherwise take your money and go elsewhere.
I love that. Yeah, because you really have no idea. And sometimes though, you don't know the questions to ask. You don't know what you don't know. As somebody who historically has blindly
Dorothy, do you want
trusted.
me to give people a list of questions to just ask supplement
Yes.
companies? Okay,
Yes.
cool. So let's say you're just going out and buying a supplement, right? Because if you're going out and buying a supplement, and we're going to do this kind of agnostic to what it's for. There are basic questions that you can ask your supplement companies that will allow you to assert whether or not it's a quality product. First, send me the third-party tests that you do on your ingredients. Now, if they don't send them to you, or if they send you something that is not HPLC, ask why. And if they don't answer the question in a way that is reasonable, which usually means they're going to send you the test, go somewhere else. Where do you source your ingredients from? Sometimes the supplement company honestly doesn't know. And so that's a scary thought. Do you have any proof of potency in your batches? We also do what's called heavy metal testing and micro testing, meaning are there microorganisms in it? And so you can ask for that. You can get more and more in depth into what you're buying. And if you're asking for this, one, you're educating yourself as to what you're taking and why you're taking it. But also, two, you're going to make all the other supplement companies better, which is frankly what I'm after here, which is how do we make an industry that was candidly full of a lot of crap a lot better?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Oh, well, there you go, people. For those of you that are just tuning in, definitely ask your providers of the supplements that you're taking, right? Instead of blindly going into it and saying yes, okay, then this should work, because what should work doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work.
This is true. And there's a lot of factors that are out of your control. But to get some of the power back and to use I think it's a Public Enemy song, Take the Power Back, right? Or Rage Against the Machine, can't remember. But you can take the power back a little bit by being an informed consumer.
Right. And well, when you first started, though, you blew my mind when you said if it's 10 milligrams of something, they only really have to put 8 in it. So basically, we're not really getting what we're paying for.
Theoretically, well, look, there are companies out there that are good and they will hit the numbers that they put on the label. They're just not required to. And there's very little aftermarket policing in this. And there was an interesting case, and I know they improved their quality after it happened, but a very well-known supplement store chain that is global, there were raided, and or it wasn't really raided, but a researcher went in and bought stuff off the shelves, tested it, and nothing was what it appeared to seem and what it appeared as on the label. As a result of that, there has been massive improvements and massive standard improvements among supplement companies, but it's still not perfect. And I do think that what I'm an advocate for here is, again, a powered responsibility from the client's perspective, but also making sure that you have somebody it's already hard enough to get somebody to take ownership of their health, to actually want to take, like just walking down the streets of Chicago today, you can look around and say, hey, a lot of these people are probably predisposed to diabetes. And I want everybody to have a fighting chance. And the person who's already stepping up to the plate, ready to take a swing and say like, hey, let's go. Let's get healthier. I want that person to actually buy something that's useful to them and not going to give them heavy metal toxicity, not going to give them, or it's going to give them what they need. And like, good on you for stepping up to the plate. Now let's support that person as they step up to the plate so that they can hit a home run.
I love that. And you're definitely passionate about what you do and how you serve your people.
Thank you.
So, I mean, you could just hear it coming out of you. I'm asserting that because you've, done all of this and you're so well knowledge that this has definitely helped you in your health journey as well.
Well, absolutely. I hinted earlier about a cardiovascular issue that I had, and let's talk a little bit about that because I can do, and I'm always happy to talk about this. So cardiovascular issues are usually multifactorial, and I think that sometimes you have to go through a process by which to uncover what the root issue was. And when I went through the process of getting an angiogram after my 30th birthday, I didn't quite know as much as I do now, or even a couple of years later, but I did understand that, cholesterol is just one aspect of that particular problem. And so you dig into like how cholesterol is created, then you start to dig in the effects of, blood sugar and sleep and cholesterol. And you start to get into this world that I have come to fall in love with called complex adaptive systems. And the human body is definitely an example of one of those. And over the course of that lovely journey, I think there were a couple of like very easy low hanging fruits, like smacking me in the face, obvious that to me as a stubborn male, that it wasn't as obvious as it could have been. And so, Dorothy, one of the first things that jumps out at you is that I, from the age of 18 to 30, slept 4 to 6 hours a night. And I did this all in the name of, there's a great song by a rap artist called Nas, called New York State of Mind. And New York State of Mind, in that he has a lyric that says, sleep is the cousin of death. And I basically, I convinced myself that I'll just sleep when I'm dead. Well, funny thing is I was sort of pushing myself closer, asymptotically closer to that. So first things first, I correct my sleep. I found out that I was actually working out too much. I was one of these people who, despite the fact that I traveled so much, I would always do a workout every single day. And I would talk to whatever trainer and say like, can I just work out 7 days a week, twice a day? But most of them were like, you're really crazy. I was having panic attacks, and I don't really talk about this much. I was having panic attacks at the age of 26, and I was trying to hide it. But that was something that I failed to acknowledge, that I was stressed. And I was traveling all over the world. When I lived in Singapore, one of the greatest things, by the way, Dorothy, is like having somebody else pay for your exploration of the world. I got to go to 40 countries in 4 years, but every single week I was on a plane. It was rare that I wasn't changing time zones. And so if you look at, there's this great field, which I would encourage somebody to just throw into Google or Perplexity or whatever your tool is, called chronobiology. And if you look at chronobiology, your body is synced up in a series of clocks. The one that everybody thinks of is circadian rhythm, which is your sleep-wake cycle. But there's also clocks for testosterone. There's clocks for your menstrual cycle. If you're a woman, there's clocks for everything. And if you can't give your body a chance to sync those clocks, well, you're kind of screwed, and a lot of bad things happen. So as I unpacked that, I got into this world of chronobiology, which is kind of my sort of specialist space, if you will, and fell in love with it. And over the course of several years, and this actually just, I got the test results back last year, so I'm glad we're having this conversation now. My heart is back to 100% function, which is pretty awesome, right? So in the matter of 6 years, I was able to reverse the effects of what I did to myself over the previous 30.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's pretty cool. I mean, there's a whole lot we can go down the wormhole on there, Dorothy. So you take us wherever you want to go.
Well, I'm just okay. So the number one thing that I keep on hearing is either heart disease, or cancer are the two top diseases, especially amongst my family. And so when you say that you can reverse 30 years in 5 years, that's amazing. And okay, so I have a question. So you, because I'm in the process of doing 75 hard for the second time. And
Oh
so when
yeah,
you
I like Andy's, like, he's a great marketer, and like I love the 75 hard.
So when you said that you were working 7 days a week, 2 times a day, but then your doctor said, "Okay, come on, that's crazy." So the first thing I thought of was, "Wait a minute, should I be doing this?" And I don't know. Everybody's different, but
Of course. So let's unpack 75 hard. And it's been a while since I've reviewed Andy's document, but I think it's reading something like 15 pages a day. You work out twice a day, but it's like one of those is outside. I don't remember if it's 30 minutes or 45 minutes.
45.
He has a cold shower in there too, I believe, too.
That's for
Uh,
the second level, yeah.
yeah, and so look, I think this is a tool to get started, and a tool to, maybe, let's say you've kind of worked out as sort of a general person in the gym for a while, and there's many people like this, and you're just bored. Like, that's a great tool. Now, let me tell you the difference between that tool and what I was doing. So 75 hard concludes at 75 days. And look, if you can make it through it, it's actually a fantastic thing to help combat what I was talking about earlier, which is goldfish like focus, right? And so we live in a world where focus, discipline have gone completely out the window. And so having something like a 75 hard is an amazing tool. And I love that people are doing it to get back into some sort of form of shape, or to at least signal to yourself that health is important. Now, what I was doing was, up at my peak, I was doing 2 times a day, hour-long plus CrossFit workouts. So the intensity factor was high. And it wasn't like I was modulating intensity. At that point in my life, I was a 0 100, 120 person. And so the, the cascading effect of that is I'm not giving my body a chance to recover. I was also doing this during a period. If you think about a professional CrossFit athlete, they are dedicating their lives to this. And so some cases, they'll do 2-3 workouts a day, but their corresponding rest period is equal to that effort, meaning that it may not be equal in terms of duration, but it'll match the effect. I was traveling all over the world. I was sleeping 4 to 6 hours a night, and I was still doing this for myself, because at that time, Men's Health was saying, hey, if you have a six pack and follow the ketogenic diet, you're going to be healthy. Turns out that wasn't particularly the case. It also highlights something that's very important here, which is bioindividuality. If you have a body that is predisposed to heavy amounts of inflammation, which you're only going to know by testing, it's likely that doing what I was doing is going to be impossible for you. It's also highly likely that for most of the population, as I highlighted earlier, when it comes to sleep, you're not going to be able to do what I was going to do anyway, or that I did anyway. Now, my body is not necessarily predisposed to inflammation, except in that circadian dysregulation that we call jet lag. And so, in those cases, it does amp up quite significantly. And what I was doing was, essentially, if you picture it as like flooding your body with gasoline, I was just lighting a spark, and that's when everything kind of went into that conflagration.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing that part. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that will hear this and go, wait a minute. and
No, do the 75
overthink
hard.
things,
Dorothy, do the
overthink
75.
it.
If you're listening to this, do the 75 hard. Have fun with it. Like, go read a cool book. Like, frankly, I'll do it with you. If you guys all want to do the 75 hard, I'll do it with you. It's just now I'm much smarter about matching the recovery
Right.
period to the stimulus, because the recovery equals the stimulus.
Right. With that, though, I'm going to bring the amazing, lovely Kimberly Genovese up and
What's up,
welcome.
Kimberly?
Yo!
Yes, because Kimberly actually got me on 75 hard. So
Yeah.
she's the catalyst for this.
Uh-oh. Are we
Well,
going to
what's
point
going to
blame
be
here, or
really
are we just going to
fun,
have some
Boomer?
fun?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Boomer, we've got a whole community that you can join us in, that we like a little subculture of 75 hard. So it would be really fun to invite you to be part of
Just
that.
wrote me in, I'll
Dude,
do it.
yeah. Well, and there's
I
a
will
lot of
have
us that
some
are
fun.
in Chicago doing it, right? So like we could even meet. So it's
Well, of
awesome.
course. And if you guys want a cold plunge in Lake Michigan, I'll join you.
So
I've done
March,
that before, by the way. Yeah.
That's actually scheduled, and we're doing it. I believe it's March 4th, but
Okay.
hey, so
send me a
for all of
message. We'll take pictures. I'll be there.
Absolutely. So, well, first of all, great show, guys, and it's we've been doing so many tapings, Dorothy. It's bizarre because for a while there we were doing every Monday, so it's just like in some ways I'm like I miss everyone. Like it's so great to be back, and like maybe for y'all it hasn't appeared like I've been gone. So it's just wonderful to be here. It's so great to be with you, Boomer, and it's wonderful to be able to bring in the fundamentals of the show. So so our fundamentals for anybody who just might happen to be watching for the first time.
Fun.
Yes, right. It's spelled capital F-U-N, little D-U-H, capital M-E-N-T-A-L-S. And I'm really loving this particular conversation in you, Boomer, because it really does live in the passion of the fundamentals, which is, what are the simplest, most fundamental basics of living a great life? And this has just been a spectacular show. So with that in mind, Boomer, we'd love to hear your fundamentals.
Oh, wow. Well, it's funny because you guys preempted this before the show, and you also said that I could change them, and I'm going to change them. Okay. So I think one will stay the same. But number one is the one that will stay the same. And I think it would be a disservice if I didn't mention this. So health as fundamental, right? Because if you think about, now I'm on a different end of the spectrum where it's and you think about health as a continuum, even that's a great way to look at it. You have one end of the spectrum where you're sick, your disease state, and you're really just unable to function, and that's an unfortunate area to be in because it's only when oftentimes for people, it's only when they're in that state that they realize how important health is. But I have the benefits of being titled or labeled as somebody that's a quote unquote entrepreneur. And then you very much quickly realize that health is a tool that enables everything else. And so it's a priority to everything else in your life. And whether it's me being a better husband, whether it's me making better decisions for the company, whether it's me treating myself well, which I think people with that label entrepreneur are not very good at doing. And again, generalization. Mm-hmm. Health is foundational. And when we take things back to first principles, I always look at health as one of those key fundamentals. The number two, and this has been one that I've been working on aggressively over the past really 7 years, is presence. Let's try and take something that's a little abstract and break it down into something that's real. So, and I'm not trying to make some sort of metaphysical claim here, and we're not talking about the cosmos or anything like that, but presence. The past is occurring in your mind right now. Mm-hmm. The future is occurring in your mind right now. There is really nothing but the present moment. But so few of us live to enjoy that moment, right? And that moment is fleeting, and it continues over and over again. Begin again is oftentimes the saying in these circles. And so a key aspect and a key focus in my life is presence. And then the third one, and the third fundamental, is actually equanimity. And if you were to ask anyone in our company what is fundamentally what Troscriptions or the parent company, Smarter Not Harder, or a nonprofit, which again, we have a different business model than most people because we have a nonprofit and a for-profit company. Fundamentally, what we provide people is equanimity. And equanimity is a moment by moment choice. So these are all interrelated, right? So equanimity is a moment by moment choice that is brought about by presence. It also helps to be healthy because that's oftentimes a distraction in your equanimity. But the way I like to think about equanimity, because it's oftentimes an obtuse word that people don't really understand, is that you think about a surfer on a wave, and a wave can bring about all kinds of variables. You can have a wave that crosses. When I learned how to surf, it was in Manuel Antonio Park in Costa Rica, and you have waves crossing each other, which is the worst way to learn how to surf. But you have to learn how to stabilize yourself on that wave. You can have huge breaks, like in I think it's called Nazar in Portugal. If you're looking at the Red Bull big wave contest, you have these people like Laird Hamilton doing big wave surfing, and there's oftentimes little mini waves in within those waves that you have to learn how to surf. And it's about being stable along those waves. And so that's the way I like to think of equanimity. It's like no matter what the world brings to you, no matter what I'm trying to build in the world or what I'm trying to move out of my way, it's about keeping that stability during that process. And that stability, or that ability to come back to that center and presence as a state of health, is equanimity. And so that's really the third fundamental for me.
Beautiful. So well said too. I really heard in all of it, like a real harmony, and especially what I heard newly in the third one, right, is just like creating a level playing field, right, like a real balance, solid balance.
Yeah, and even, balance gets us off into a conversation about work-life balance versus integration, right? And I think, both of you, we've had conversations about this, but it's even like being able to take the big waves, and that could be, let's say, getting diagnosed with a heart issue, and being able to take it in stride and say, okay, what is this teaching me? Because everything that fundamentally is either you're having fun, or you're learning. If I'm not having fun, I'm learning. And if I'm not learning, I'm having fun, or I'm trying to do both, because usually I'm always learning.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Even if I just heard a great comment about, pain, what if you weren't laughing, you'd be crying.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the power of bringing laughter to pain,
And to me, that, like, you create that space to realize that it's just it is, at the end of the day, pain. And one of the great concepts that you can pull from Eastern teachings is impermanence, right? And so the pain of today is not going to be the pain of tomorrow, but it is the pain you're enjoying in this or you are experiencing and potentially enjoying, if you're a masochist, in this moment.
Oh, so good. This could go off into a whole nother bunny trail altogether.
Well, I'm happy to go wormholes. That's sort of my specialty.
Well, you can go in the wormholes. I'm going to keep going in my bunny trails. But no, this has been fantastic and absolutely beautiful. So thank you for sharing your fundamentals. And Dorothy, back to you.
Well, thank you guys. And thank you so much, Boomer, for coming on. To get a hold of Boomer, there is his website, snhlife.com. Go check him out. And, definitely learned a lot tonight. a lot. My head is kind of like swimming in everything that Boomer has said. But it's all, something that I think a lot of us just take it for granted, and don't even think twice about, asking the questions that Boomer has said, hey, you should be asking these questions to the people that you're buying your
Supplements.
Thank you. Supplements from, and I was going to say subscriptions.
Subscriptions, you should too, right?
Same
If you-
thing. Yeah.
That's not the right word I was looking for.
Yeah.
So I had like a blank moment for a second. So sorry. But yeah, asking those questions is imperative. And, you know, just doing your research before you ingest something, really.
Of course. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Boomer, for coming on and sharing from your heart, because you could definitely see your passion in that. Just want to thank our guests for joining us tonight. And if you are looking for an amazing opportunity to get together with people with different cultures to come together and have different rituals for time, money, or resources, definitely go to thekimbra.com, which is the second sponsor of today's show, and go check them out. They have an amazing money whisperer ritual, time bender ritual, and
Rainmaker
ritual. I knew it had to do with rain, but I'm like, what the hell?
Rain, baby, rain. Making it rain.
Making it rain.
Well, and I'm just gonna it was super fun because tonight there was a new addition to the Money Whisperer. It's actually brand new, super fun. It got demoed tonight. Off the charts, right? And it's a money date.
Oh,
So, yeah, I know, right? Oh, it's so good. So follow that link. All of those rituals are recorded. So the one we did just hot off the presses tonight will be available. So for anyone who wants to check it out and they, fill it out, we can send them a link to tonight's new ritual. Super hot. Yeah.
Super. It is amazing. And trust me, I am a subscriber, and I'm looking to bring 5 new people on by the end of the month to help, with these areas in your life. So go check it out. Guarantee it won't be one of those things that you're like, Dorothy, really? Did you make me do this? It's one of those things that you'd be thanking us for. So with that, Boomer, do you have any last words before we wrap this up?
No, I think just a summary of key points here. Demand more of your supplement companies because it's your body. You deserve that. Health is very important. Please, whatever you can do to take care of yourself. And then, of course, just closing with, again, presence. The only moment we have is right now. So please enjoy your time with whoever you are with. And thank you, ladies, for the time. You can go over to snhlife.com. There's 2 links there. You can take a look at either of the companies that I mentioned. And I'm pretty easy to find on Google. So you can just Google Boomer Anderson and find me there. But much love to everybody listening. Thank you.
Yes, much love. Thank you so much. Go check us out on our Roku channel, which is Unstoppable Overcomers, or our YouTube channel, if you don't have Roku, at Unstoppable Overcomers. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Sharing is caring. And we love you. Be unstoppable in all that you do. See you same time, same channel next week. Bye.
Much love.